Hello, hello everybody. Welcome to this session about metropolitan governance, connecting urban codes with the peripheries and as well the global agendas. This afternoon, the session will have two parts. The first part, we will be looking at the challenges of the metropolization processes and what's going on around the world and connecting with the global agendas. Then we'll have a short break, and then we'll continue with a round table. Let me, with no more delay, invite on the stage Mr. Joan Clos to join me for a dialogue about metropolitan trends and what's happening in other regions. Big applause for him.
Thank you.
You probably know him. He's a former mayor of Barcelona. He's been the former Ministry of Industry and Tourism, and as well the former executive director of UN Habitat. We may say that you know all the levels of governance, isn't it?
Well, yes, in fact, the local, the national and the international, yes.
And I think that provides you with especially
and
with...
also the metropolitan, by the way.
That's true. So you know, and that's very important for this dialogue, because we may say that metropolization is one of the most disruptive processes that's happening now around the world. It's a trend of the 21st century. Do you agree with that?
Yes, clearly. One of the features of urbanization is that it's growing very fast. And in fact, urbanization and cities are growing faster than the capacity of governments to rearrange social or administrative boundaries. And therefore, one thing is the growth of the urban reality, and the other is the complexity of changing the administrative boundaries, which usually it's a political process, and it takes a lot of time.
And so you mean that we are not ready for this challenge? Or do you need that normally public administration goes slower than the reality?
Yeah, well, in fact, one of the important things in the planet Earth nowadays is that the growth of urbanization is very high. And you know that we are nearly going to double the urban population in the forthcoming 30 or 40 years in planet. That means that a lot of cities will grow a lot, you know. I think that national governments, the institutional arrangements of national governments when related to electoral circumscriptions, to administrative boundaries, it's not really as flexible as the reality of urbanization.
You are right. I think you as well, of course, you were really involved because you were the executive director of UN Habitat at that time in the road to Quito, to Habitat 3. And the preparations of Habitat 3, there was one of the thematic conference was about metropolitan areas, and then we had the Quito Declaration. Do you think that the outcome was ambitious enough to take into account this reality of the metropolitan areas and the impact that they have to the...
Well, I would say that the thinking, the ambition of the thinking, it's quite important of the new urban agenda. But that said, it's true that changing the paradigms of urbanization, it's much harder than just writing a paper. And therefore, that will take more time, and especially as urbanization is related to power, is related to money, is related to politics. That means that, of course, it's much more complex. One of the things that is happening, though, is that the population, the people, is more and more demanding on the delivery of the governments, both regional, metropolitan, or local. People is less tolerant with inefficiency of governments. Therefore, if the level of governance is structurally inefficient, this is going to create a political crisis. This is going, it will come up. I don't know when or how, but I foresee a metropolitan crisis in the sense that if we consider now, there are many studies of metropolitan governance, and we see political metropolis, we see just functional metropolis, we see metropolitan governments that only deal with mobility, the other only deals with environment services, the other only deals with water, port authorities. This kind of superposition of different administrative levels in the same piece of land, it increases the risk of lack of coordination and etc. Therefore, I think that as urbanization is growing and the complexity of urbanization is growing, these failures of the governance structure will emerge as an issue. I don't know why or when. And when nowadays, everywhere that it's happening, the stakeholders involved, they are trying to invent a particular solution. In New York, they try to see what we do with a city which is already extending to 5 states. Or in there are urban metropolis that there are international. Part of the metropolis is in one nation, and the part of the same metropolitan reality is even in another boundary, in another nation. Therefore, all that is challenging very, very much the metropolitan governance. We did 20 years ago a study of metropolitan governance in the world, and we find out one conclusion. It was not a single repeated model of urban governance. All of them are different because all of them are reacting processes to the reality. They are not proactive. They are reactive to the reality. Urbanization is growing. City goes far beyond the municipal boundaries, and then you have problems, and you need to improvise some kind of solution.
No, I fully agree with that. I think that's one of the issues about metropolitan areas or metropolitan spaces. We, Metropolis is the World Association of Metropolitan Areas and Major Cities. We carry out a study with the London School of Economics in order to find comparative indicators for metropolitan areas. And what we discovered is that almost in our membership, the metropolitan reality didn't fit the administrative reality. So that links with you, and I would like to go more on this, the complexity issue of metropolitan areas. I think you have highlighted, because they are considered local government, but sometimes they clash with the cities and the municipalities in the metropolitan areas. There are clashes between the big city and the surrounding and peripheral cities. They are, I think sometimes national governments, regional governments see metropolitan areas as a threat. If you go, I don't know, the big Buenos Aires, the conurbano bonaerense, we're talking before with the representative of Argentina, it's 33% of the Argentinian population. The GDP of the big Madrid, well, Madrid is not a metropolitan area, but you consider the urban space of Madrid, adds up to more than the 20% of the GDP of Spain. Or if you go to Seoul, South Korea, 50% of the population. Then we see in many countries that normally the mayor of these metropolitan areas, they want to run for the national government elections and so on. So they're seen as a traditional government, but the reality is that they have to interact with different layers of government, and they have to take into account many realities. And their impact goes beyond their boundaries. So,
yes, because there's a process of mutual relearning the role of the central government, the regional government, and the local government in the current world of rapid urbanization. Of course, you are mentioning the issue of prosperity, money, but at the same time there are other, no? The political, let's say, character of the urban population in terms of political or even electoral behave is very different from the rural population. And therefore, there are always some people who would be interested on keeping the electoral circumscriptions, avoiding gerrymandering, but in other parts of the world, they will promote gerrymandering and changing the linkage between electoral circumscriptions and local administration. If we look in rationality, in pure empiric rationality, one would say what has to do, to find out the proper level of governance of local issues with the electoral boundaries. And some countries, they have established, like they did in the 80s in the United Kingdom, a more, more pragmatic solution, saying, okay, every 200,000 inhabitants, this is a municipality, and forget about, well, they did so in the 80s. But then the management of the metropolises was such a mess that they needed to reinstate the local mayor of London, the mayor of Manchester, and the big cities. Therefore, there are not perfect solutions in terms of cabinet drawing of a solution. And it's quite open to the political dynamics of every country.
And do you think, sorry to interrupt you, because you were saying something about going backwards, no? They're saying that they wanted to do something, there are ideas of fusioning some municipalities, then you need to... Do you think it's also related to the issue of identity? I mean, and the sense of belonging from citizens to a metropolitan area or a city?
Yeah, that's an additional problem. You can explode feelings of identity if you are interested on whatever, because you can build identities. We have all many identities, and we can have, a lot of different identities: sportive, social, linguistical, whatever. Therefore, if you are interested on creating an additional level of identity, it's quite easy to do so when you talk about this issue of metropolitanization. But one of the things that the New Urban Agenda was proposing in Quito, because we thought a lot about that, it was to ask the national government to state a national urban policy. Because very few governments in the world, they have a real national urban policy. And a national urban policy would be the kind of dialogue or document or law or whatever where these issues can be, stated. But, as urbanization in general proceeds in its own dynamics, there's a kind of avoidance of getting involved in elaborating a national urban policy, because it seems that tends to be a problematic document. But if we think rationally, probably the political best manner to address the issue of the metropolitan governance would be when you establish the national urban policy, because at the national level you establish the level of taxes, the level of financing of the local authorities, and you establish many things, the electoral circumscriptions. Therefore, is if somebody probably has the legitimacy to get the hands on the problem of metropolitanization and looking for the optimal level of governments at local level, but at metropolitan size, is the central government. Because if you leave that to the directly interested, then there are always the risk of these local fights. I don't want the old capital to be the one who rules the new towns. No, I want the old capital should have the formal representative, but we need a new government for transportation that should be ruled, etc. At the end, the most difficult question is always taxation. No taxation without representation. Then, are we considering metropolitan taxes? Do we need metropolitan taxes for metropolitan services? Mainly transportation, water, some other services that we think that the best way to manage them is metropolitan. If the answer to this question is yes, then we should have some kind of, let's say, representative, especially if it's taxation, it should be some kind of representative government for the metropolitan reality. But this is very, this is very questioned all around the world, in the developed world and in the developing world. But the problem is that if we now have, let's say, 120, 200, 300 metropolises in the world, meaning by metropolis, urban realities which overpass the municipal boundary of the nuclear city, in 30 years, probably we are going to multiply by 3 the number of metropolis in the world. And of course, in different parts of the world, I am sure they will emerge different kinds of approach to the very complex problem of the metropolitan governance.
No, in fact, in Metropolis we have identified, well, there's not a single model, we agree on that, because it's always we have many members asking us, which is the perfect model for governing a metropolis? Say, no, there is not a perfect model because
there's not even a model.
There's not even a model. We have tried to classify what's around, and we have identified 4 trends, at least. One should be like cooperation, based on voluntary basis. So it's like municipalities, they need to sort out things. There is not a legal framework, and mayors decide to work together. Then there is more the technical approach. As you said, you create an agency for waste management, for water, for mobility. Then there is another one, which is central government, deciding here you have a urban space, we need to do something. And then maybe the 4th model, which is the most elaborated one, is the one that you have a real metropolitan institution. But even then, when you have a metropolitan institution, it's rare the cases that you have elected body for the metropolitan space. Otherwise, it's a second-level body. Do you think, is it necessary? Because it's true that say there's not a single model, but the trend that we see is normally is a kind of, you start cooperating, then you go to the technical agencies, then maybe you deal with the national government, and then at the end, you reach to create an institution, a metropolitan institution, which then needs to deal more to other policies, not only the technical ones, if you can say that. Do you think it's necessary to have a real representation to connect with citizens?
I think so, in the sense that I assume that there's an underlying movement of city growth. I mean urbanization growth, which overpass the city boundaries. In this kind of urbanization, many issues emerge, like fiscal dumping. The small municipality nearby, they diminish the taxes, and they attract businesses or people or whatever they want to attract. And this kind of fights and behaviors then tend to create problems at the mid and long term. And then some kind of new rationality is needed. And at the end, I think that the general tendency is that with the maturation of the urbanization, there's also a parallel process of maturation of the governance level, especially when we talk about taxes. Until we don't talk about taxes, things are more or less, we can live in a heaven of we are all friends and we cooperate and blah, blah, blah. But when the issue becomes to be taxation, well, then we enter in another phase where the things became more serious, and then some measures usually are needed to be taken.
So we're always back to the issue of money. Money is the key.
Well,
then.
and money and its representation.
Perfect. And because we're running out of time, maybe a final question, because you've been mayor, and according to all the things you were saying, how you handle the balance between the interests of your own city, the vision for your own city, but as well dealing with all the municipalities around your city. Do you think there's a need for leadership, generosity, vision?
Yeah, all that and more, even irrational things and emotional things, and you need a lot of looking for different solutions when you face with a problem. And the problem is never a theoretical problem. It's always a pressing and real problem for this or for that, etc. I have dealt here in the Metropolitan region of Barcelona with issues of transportation, of issues of solid waste, of issues of waste, of issues, economic promotion, whatever, housing, affordability, all realities when the city growth behind the city boundary became metropolitan issues. And then you see that, either you find a solution, but if you don't find a solution, then the problems tend to fossilize and stay there and create finally a conflict that if it's not solved by yourself or cooperating with the mayors, local mayors nearby, they tend to be imposed top-down. Then it's better to try to find solutions bottom-up and to demonstrate that you can create common policies than just to wait to demonstrate that you cannot solve the problem and then the solution comes imposed from outside.
So thank you very much. I think that was a dialogue which is based on the practice, not on the theory, as you said, and you've been lucky to experience all the levels of government. I think we have some minutes only for, you can stay just, if there are 2 questions, we have time for 2 questions, otherwise we'll pass to the next speaker. Is there any question you want to raise? No? So then we can move on, so we are stick on time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gracias. And now, let me please call on the stage Mrs. Nidhi Srivastava. She's the CEO of New Delhi Smart City, and she will share with us the views of a big city, a metropolitan space, the city of New Delhi, and then challenges being faced on metropolization, and as well related to all the challenges of a smart city and digitalization. So please, whenever you want.
Thank you so much. Good evening to you all. I'm representing New Delhi Municipal Council, and after the discussion, the main issue which we need to answer right now is whether we consider urbanization as actually a solution or a problem. So if we consider it a problem, we'll actually see it as a problem, and if we consider it as a solution, we see it as a solution. Delhi is very complex, and when we were talking about the different models, though Joan Clos said that we did not have a model, but in 2012, the Municipal Corporation of Delhi was trifurcated. So there are 5 different municipal models which exist together in Delhi. So there is a South Delhi Municipal Corporation, North Delhi Municipal Corporation, East Delhi, the New Delhi Municipal Council, which I represent, and a cantonment board. Apart from that, the urban mobility is tackled by a different agency. Water is a public utility of its own. So in this complexity and in this challenge, Delhi is surviving, and I would say succeeding. If you see the figures, around 31% of Indian population is urban, and it is fast increasing. So now again, the question is, what should we do further? There's a lot of migration from rural areas to urban areas in Delhi, and rest of the cities, Delhi and Mumbai being the major cities, so it's seeing a lot of migration. So Delhi as a whole has around 16 million population, and we see a stark contrast between the kind of facilities which is being provided to the people of Delhi. And here where the role comes of the metropolitan corporations in Delhi. New Delhi Municipal Council is the smallest of all, around 45 square kilometer area, and just 2 million migrating population. Night population is just 0.25 million. So you can well imagine the contrast between 2 million in the afternoon, morning and afternoons, and 2.25 in the evening, who are actually residing in the area. In 2016, the smart city was launched in New Delhi Municipal Council, and we were one of the 20 lighthouses cities of smart cities, and a lot of fun, because earlier majorly the municipal corporations in Delhi were grappling with a lot of fund crisis. So around 3.96 billion rupee has been put in New Delhi Municipal Council, where the central and state share is there, and they are supposed to launch various new activities to make New Delhi Municipal Council a better place to stay for the people. No doubt, because people are coming in, they are expecting more, their expectations are more, and we as public servant are in Delhi or throughout the world are here to help people out and to make their stay a better place. So there are so many new ideas and innovations which have been launched, whether it is 1.40 billion command control system which has been launched for New Delhi Municipal Council itself, in which we'll have all the facilities on board, or the smart poles, the integrated, apart from the integrated command control system, you must be reading a lot about Delhi's pollution. So we are trying to introduce public bike sharing system. So if you go and see in Delhi, we have this public bike sharing system. We have introduced electric vehicles. Now the main problem when we introduced electric vehicles was how will they charge? So people will not come up and buy new electric vehicles till the time they have the electric charger systems available throughout the area. So apart from introducing the electric vehicles, we have the charging stations, so that they should go ahead and buy new vehicles, because there is facility of charging these vehicles. There was a lot of dovetailing and convergence was required whenever it is not only the question in New Delhi Municipal Council but throughout India. So the convergence was made in the sense that every house has been given a unique ID, and this ID has been dovetailed with the electricity, the water, and all these things. So this is called a door delivery number, DDN system, and this is how small little innovative ideas are being launched in Delhi, in the New Delhi Municipal Council area, and to make it a better place to stay. All the talks which we just had, our speaker talking about it, he of course talked out of his experience, but I would talk about a little experience and more of a theory. All these things are working, and when we go on to take people's view of how they think, has the smart city made their life better, you will find most of them coming up and saying, yes, we feel that we are better, we are now better equipped. There's another thing which we have launched, are the happiness areas or beautifying the whole city. So New Delhi Municipal Council area, which is the Lutean zone of Delhi, was always beautiful and people were having a good stay there. But even then, the area has been beautified and open gyms have been launched so that people can use it and they are more aware of the health. They are happy in the environs they are staying. And I believe in the whole process, the bureaucracy of Delhi and also the political executive of Delhi are trying to make Delhi a better place to stay. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, yeah. So you have any questions about her presentation, about what's going on in Delhi and all the things of his talk? You have given us an overview of the challenges of governance as well, the specific challenges of New Delhi. So the floor is open for whoever who wants to raise a question. Otherwise, I'll break the ice with a question. No, I have a question for you, sorry.
Okay.
Because you pointed out something saying, of course, you saying the same that Mr. Clos was saying that there is not a single model about governing. Even in one given city, the models maybe need to evolve because the reality keeps evolving. And then you were talking about issues about taxes and funding as well. You think that's one of the critical issues for New Delhi? How is related to citizens, the issue of funding the municipality and the policies and the services?
Yeah.
Which kind of system have you developed?
So, if you remember, during my talk, I had talked about the trifurcation of municipal corporation in Delhi. So once the municipal corporation was trifurcated, 3 different municipal corporations were made. The funds issue came in, and this is where the taxation comes in. Until unless each municipal corporation has its own funding and sustainable sustainability, they'll not be able to work or provide for better development of the area. So there are taxes which the metropolitan areas have their own taxes and they can use it, but ultimately they come under the urban development of central government.
Mm-hmm. And I think everyone knows that New Delhi is a huge city. It's one of the cities with most population around the world.
Yes.
And of course, we were discussing before as well that I think in metropolitan areas, in metro spaces, you can find most of the opportunities, but as well, because they attract talent, they attract innovation, they attract economy and investments, but at the same time also attract a lot of people and many problems. Recently, we saw in the news about the issue of pollution. It's not only a problem of New Delhi, it's a problem of all these many cities around the world. How can we handle this situation, having huge urban spaces with lots of population, and then ensuring quality of life, ensuring a nice environment for people to live there? How do you think we can approach these things?
So as I said, urbanization can be seen as a problem or a solution. Mm-hmm. So if you see it as a starting point of something, this is the fresh breeding ground for new innovations. For example, now what we read about pollution, we are looking for new innovative ideas. How can we tackle the problem of pollution in Delhi? Mm-hmm. So we are getting a lot of ideas and a lot of experiments which people have done all over the world, and they can see that these experiments have helped containing the pollution. So again, the whole process of the problems which are arising in new urban India are the ones which are giving us to use the latest innovative ideas to be used in the whole setup.
Okay, thank you. Is there any question? Yeah, there's one question there. You can, I just think there's a microphone. There's someone bringing you the microphone, so could you introduce yourself and then ask the question, please?
Hi, my name is Matthew. I have a question about financing, especially when it comes to implementation of EVs within your municipality. Is there any specific financing that you had to go for? Did you involve OEMs in the financing of that, or were you able to roll that out?
So sticking to the New Delhi Municipal Council, how it's working, and especially the smart city aspect. So there is a contribution from the central government and the federal government, that's the Delhi government. So they both have contributed to get on a 3.96 billion venture of smart city in New Delhi Municipal Council.
Okay.
Apart from, of course, the taxation proceeds which the council is getting.
Thank you. Any other question? Maybe a final one, because you are the CEO of New Delhi Smart City. How do you think all the issues related to smart city, digitalization, artificial intelligence is impacting or is going to impact the governance of New Delhi, but as well of other Indian cities or cities around the world?
Artificial intelligence is playing a very important role in terms of not only New Delhi Municipal Council but rest of the cities, major cities in India, because the command control system which we are talking about is all about data capturing, all about data crunching, analysis, and then putting in things to make the whole process a better process. So I believe this is being used widely, not only in Delhi but throughout the country.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question there.
Is there? Oh, great. There's one. The microphone is coming. There's one, and then the lady at the third row.
Hi. So I would like to know if you have any particular public-private partnership strategy for Delhi's problems, and if you're already partnering with any private institutions for addressing them. That's quite a broad question, but if you could,
Yeah.
Thank you.
So New Delhi Smart City is looking for public-private partnership, and in one or two ventures we do have, like for laying optical fibers throughout NDMC area, that's New Delhi Municipal Council areas. We have partnered it with one of the private partners, and we are looking for one because ultimately the basic concept of a smart city is that it has to be self-sustained, and we need to actually, through our fundings and through our proceeds, we need to help it grow. So we are looking for public-private partnerships, but not many.
Thank you.
Not
Now,
many till now.
the lady.
Thank you. My name is Agnes. I work for Metropolis with Mr. de la Varga. I have two questions. First one is, what is the percentage of women working in your area? Because I'm very happy you're here today, and actually in this platform we have a lot of women, but it's not always the case. So which percentage of women are working on Smart City India? And the second question is, we are struggling to work with Indian cities in general. Do you think this is going to change in the near future? I mean, how do you see the situation? I mean, the relationships Indian cities have with international organizations as Metropolis or other organizations. Do you think it's going to change, or are you negative about this?
Oh, great.
Thank you.
So I'll answer your second question first, wherein you said that once the interaction which we are having with the international organization, whether it will change the working, I feel absolutely yes, because it's so very important, because we are not only unlearning, we are relearning and trying to use the various new technologies which are being used in other countries as well as given by the international organization. And the second question is, if you really see what is the gender percentage of in case of the smart city, it's really not much, though I am the one who is heading smart city, but I don't see it as a platform for any lady officer or any person to think bad about it, because everybody is putting in their bit, not as a gender specific, but as a person and an officer as their own. So I consider myself first an officer and then a lady.
Okay. So thank you very much. If there are no more questions, I will ask for an applause.
And there's
This
another
final one, the
question.
final one, and then.
Hi, Victor here from Ukraine. I just want to accentuate that India and Ukraine they have one similarity, and that is the number of IT specialists. Because as far as we know, India is one of the top outsourcing countries in the world. So my question is, how do you work with local talent, with local IT talent, if there is a way how you work with them, and what's your particular strategy about engaging a local IT talent into solving city problems and involving them into finding solutions?
I think wonderful question. India has started something called startups. So all the IT talents which we are having for fresh are being used in these startups. And we do have a separate procedure through which we can include the startups in our working, not only the smart city, but all the municipal corporation and other governance areas also. So the young professionals, IT professionals who are coming up, they are actually doing a very good job and giving us excellent inputs when it comes to IT inputs for the municipal corporation.
So thank you very much. We don't have more time for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We have reached now, it's working. So we have reached the first part of this session. I think we have heard many things about metropolitan governance and the challenges. Probably 21st century will be the century of metropolitan spaces. And this is a trend that, even if we can agree or not, it's unstoppable. So we need to find solutions for that. We've even heard ideas about there's no one single model for metropolitan governance. The need for political leadership, I mean, from what Mr. Clos was saying, but as well our colleague from New Delhi, is that in order to handle metropolitan areas and big cities, you need political leadership and a vision for your territory. What do you want your territory to be in the future, in the mid-long term? As well, the issue of that urban population is increasing. And so we need to think ahead. And as well, everything is going so fast, no? And the impact of new technologies, the impact of digitalization in the way our society is evolving, I think it doesn't go at the same path and rhythm that local governments, administrations, public administrations are running. And that can create a problem. I mean, that society can evolve in a way, but the needs of urbanization, maybe we are not able to answer from the public sector. So that's one thing we need to take into account. And then, of course, there are specific policies that are important in metropolitan spaces more than in other areas, which are mobility, which are air pollution, and the issue of the quality of life of citizens. And of course, one of the critical things is how we are going to fund all these things, no? All these policies that metropolitan areas need, the issue of taxation, the issue of funding, but then if you go into taxation, how do you involve citizens, and then as well how you provide these metropolitan governments and metro cities governments with adequate powers and representation in order to implement the policies that are needed. As well as the CEO from New Delhi Smart City has said, I mean, digitalization is a challenge, but as well an opportunity. But the issue as well is about how you can incorporate in metropolitan governance people who are skilled and who are able to deal with all these challenges of smart city and digitalization. So now we will have a very small break, so don't run away. We're going to lock the doors, so no, you can run away if you want, but we ask you to remain here with us. At the end, you can grab a cup of coffee, some juice, water. You have 15 minutes for networking to discuss, even if you want to talk with Mrs. Srivastava from New Delhi, and the other participants in the room, so you can exchange, and in 15 minutes, we'll come back for the round table with other participants. So thank you very much.
So good afternoon. Thank you for those remaining here after a long day. My name is Chavetiana. I work in the Barcelona Metropolitan Government. This is the government of 36 municipalities around Barcelona. This is one of the governmental structures. It's a local government which is managing waste, water, mobility, land planning, public space, housing in the metropolitan region of Barcelona. So after the presentation we have before, where we were discussing about urbanization, the provision of basic services, financing, taxation, metropolitan identity, we have in the stage 4 experiences from 4 different realities, from 4 different countries that would like to share with you the way these territories, local governments, national governments are implementing policies dealing with innovation and smart cities. I have to say that this is not a gender well-balanced roundtable. Sorry for that. For this reason, I would like to give the floor, first of all, to Laura Borsato, coming from Argentina, from the national government. After Laura, we will have the speech of Mr. Didier. I leave Didier like this because it's impossible to me trying to pronounce your surname. Sorry about that, Didier. I was trying before, but no way. And after Mr. Didier, who's just coming from Rwanda, from the organization Smart Africa, we'll have the presentation of Mr. Ezat Teminham from Turkey, from Istanbul. And finally, we'll leave the floor to the participation of a mayor. Mayor Eugene Grant, coming from Pleasant, Maryland, in the United States. So as you can see, different territorial realities, different roles. And well, Laura, the floor is yours. Okay. They have 8 minutes each. I will cut you if you're passing this time, because we would like to have the debate with the audience. Laura, okay. You can start.
Thank you, Javier, for introducing me, and I thank the rest of the panel. A very good panel to share today. And first of all, I would like to introduce myself. I'm leading the Undersecretary in Argentina in the national Argentina government, which is leading a full transformation in terms of modernization. And I'm facing a really big challenge because in Argentina we have 2,500 different municipalities with very different realities along the country. We have cities with 3 million people and cities with 500 people. We have very developed cities and others without connectivity. So when we face this challenge from a national perspective on how to ensure that the equality of opportunities and the infrastructure that we need to build all across the country, it was really a very big challenge to make it happen nationwide. And the other thing that I would like to share with you is the view that today the network societies makes that the geographical space is being transformating in a different flows of things. There's no more in a space flow. Now is people that interact from different cities in terms of information, in terms of people, in terms of capitals. So even though this globalization process we saw in the Argentinian case is that the cities itself, they are the key minimum cell of individuals that have talent, that have opportunities, that have all the issues, that are the ones, the mayors are the ones that need to face all the different problems and have the society asking there for a better quality of life all the time. So that's why in the beginning of this presidential phase, we issued a modernization law which build the different pillars that we are working in what we call País Digital, which means this initiative to run the modernization of the local governments from a nation perspective, for a centralized perspective. So actually, I'm taking the relationship hand to hand with the different mayors, and to beginning with the running of this plan, we determine first of all a way of interaction in a multi-level section, multi-level spectrum, from nation to government to local, because then we have, even when I have a relationship directly with the mayors, then we have the governors. So this space should be collaborative as well with the private sector and as well with the academic sector and ONGs and all the third sector in the societies. So this is a very comprehensive model in which each part collaborates with different things. Sometimes infrastructure, sometimes talent, sometimes capabilities, sometimes a centralized approach which has been in cascade deployed in all the different cities. And the pillars, as I was mentioning, was first of all the starting point, designing a diagnosis of how level of development we have in the country. So then we built a methodology to establish a baseline to determine with a model that has been developed by my team, by this new team, which has the 300 different factors in different areas of the government, governance, environment, human development, urban planning, and competitiveness. And these are the chapters in which we measure and make a diagnosis of each one of the cities, of course, prioritizing the biggest one that has also more information, and then rank them from 1 to 10 and make a plan. This is a very useful methodology to make a plan towards the mayors should move ahead in their day-to-day basis with the different teams. In this case, we determine some, based on this diagnosis, different platforms to interact with the citizens, all the digital administration, with the ICT in all the platforms of the mayors to attend all the different needs from population, open government and collaborative platforms. And then we also realize, obviously all of this to foster the electronic governance. And then we also realize that in Argentina, even when most of the people has devices and internet access in the 68% of the population, mobile access in more than that, but we have as a nation a duty with them to make equal opportunities to access, not only to access, also to develop their level of literacy, digital literacy. So we build a big program, probably one of the biggest what I saw in the world, that has 500 stages in different 500 meeting points in the different cities in which we learn people to the basic things up to the digital jobs, the initial programming skills, and the first employment, the first digital employment, which is one of the ones that we are trying to foster to reduce the unemployment rate. Then we also have two other, the last one I will share, or three last programs. One is the public Wi-Fi, and this is related also with the previous point, my point. In the case of the different access we have in the country with the internet, so with this program all across the country, with the accessibility, free accessibility in different free spots, it makes everyone to can access nationwide. Then we have other program which is directly meant to support the human capital to enhance the local capabilities, because we realized that the different realities in the country makes the possibilities of the small cities to really empower themselves are more limited. And the last one, to make all sense with all this strategy, we try to accelerate them and to price them when they make better. So we build the baseline, then we measure them, then they improve, we help them on implementing the different platforms and solutions, and then we measure them again with the impartial methodology with external judges that finalize yearly in a quality prime, which is something that really makes them encouraged to continue improving with all the challenges we know that the cities have. So,
thank you very much, Laura, for this presentation. I have some questions, but I prefer that we go on and let's finish. Didier, how is the situation in Rwanda, where this organization, Smart Africa, is working so hard, and the relation with Kigali, which is this metropolitan government in your country?
Thank you. I think I'll need also the pointer. It's probably here. So, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizer and for having me here, and to share the experience on an African perspective. And maybe before diving into the Rwandan experience, I'd like to, in a few seconds, introduce what Smart Africa is. I don't know, if people in this room have heard about Smart Africa before? Can I see maybe by a show of hands? Okay, I can see some few hands here. So Smart Africa, it's an organization that has been established by head of state, African head of state. They decided to work together and to accelerate digital transformation beyond their own borders, because, as you know, normally countries focus on national issues, but they saw an opportunity to work together. So they created this organization from 7 countries, now with 30 countries. It's a market of about 750 million people, and it's still growing. What is unique in this platform is that there is a strong drive from the top level to really move forward with digital transformation, because the leadership of different countries, of these 30 countries, see that there is an opportunity to leapfrog, to accelerate social economic transformation using technology. So we do support countries, we do support various initiatives in the continent, and each country learns from the other. So what I would like also to add is that there is also an additional, it's not only government, private sector also is involved, academia, and a wide range of international organizations such as the African Union, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, different development partners, including BMZ, Germany, and many other development partners who have come towards this vision of creating one single digital market for Africa. So it's again this context that we also started focusing on cities. What is happening around the world is not so unique to other regions. It's also the same type of pressure that Africa is facing. And I think we are facing even a greater pressure. Issues around transportation, water management, energy. The demand of energy is growing. It's growing, and the ability to respond to the needs is actually not always matching the available resources. The health, social services, poverty, which is centered to the strategy of most of the country, creating wealth and moving out of poverty. and so on, pollutions. Those are not challenges that are specific to only one continent. It's also the reality for Africa, and I think it's even sometimes more acute. But the good news is Africa is actually moving. The story you know about Africa is changing. Most of the people know Africa as the place where there is starvation, where there are wars, but that's what sometimes the media show, and people think about Africa that way, about diseases. Africa is home to the among the top reformers in doing business. 5 of the top 10 countries are coming from Africa. Economic growth. 5 of the 10 countries in the world that has the most impressive economic growth. Example of Rwanda, which is growing 8.5%. I know, for example, that many countries in the world cannot even have a 1% growth of economic growth. It's happening in Africa today. So what happened is, today, with all this growth which is happening, there are also pressures that we are facing. And if you see this curve, 60 years ago, only 10% of the population were living in cities. But by 2050, which is merely 30 years from now, 60% of the population will live in cities. So because of this, because of the urbanization which is growing, the head of state who are sitting at the board of Smart Africa decided to put it on the map of their priorities. So they approved the Smart Cities Blueprint, the Africa Smart Cities Blueprint. The picture you see there has President of Sao Tome, of Djibouti, of Rwanda, of Niger, of Mali, and so on. They were sitting and they decided to make it a top priority for Africa, to prepare the next generation about this transformation. So the document you see on the left is available. It's called the Africa Smart Blueprint, Smart and Sustainable Blueprint, which was like they're capturing their understanding about what Africa needs to do. But it didn't stop there. Countries also started developing their own national smart cities plan. And that's what I would like to talk in a few minutes about what Rwanda has done in that space. So at the very same meeting, Rwanda also launched its own plan, its own 5-year plan. And to be able to approach the complexity of city, they divided it in 2 categories. They saw that, first of all, there are domains, and the second are the city flows. For domains, there are issues around business services, healthcare, public health management, public safety, education, and finance. And on the city flows, there's transportation, mobility, water and waste management, energy, and so on, smart buildings, and also how to improve to reduce pollution. So they came out with this plan. It's a 5-year plan that is currently being implemented, and it went through a process of consultation, making sure all the key stakeholders are part of it. And the next slide actually shows the different steps and the different considerations that they had to take. Number 1, there was a strong commitment to make Kigali a smart city. It starts with the leadership. They decide to make it happen. Second thing is to identify champions, because it's a very large domain. You need to have people who are ready to actually champion this initiative. And this is fuel for the journey. When you have a few quick wins, it's encourage others also to adopt it. The third one is to create a shared vision. And it's very easy to say that, but creating a shared vision is not something easy. Bring all the stakeholders together and create a shared vision for smart city. It requires a lot of engagement and making sure everyone is on board. And lastly, to choose to be transparent, open, driven by data. Because data is everything. Data will tell you how to improve and what you need to focus on. So we went through a long step, and Smart Africa supported Rwanda to develop this plan, which was done along Smart African government of Rwanda, from the study of the city, creating a stakeholder partnership team, identifying the challenges and the opportunity, all the way up to creating this vision or this master plan that will guide the implementation of the city, but also putting mechanisms to monitor and to evaluate if this plan is actually being implemented. So what we learned from it is that number one, you need a bold leadership. You need really a strong leadership from the top. And from the top here, I mean from head of state, from mayors, from the people who really will want it to happen. They need to be engaged. Number two, it needs to be centric to citizens. Whatever you do, if it doesn't impact the life of the citizen, it doesn't mean anything. It needs to involve all agencies. It needs to include not only the government, but the private sector and other members of the ecosystem. It needs to be also technology only come to support all these goals. And that's where you can use big data, can increase communication and using platform to also focus on increasing connectivity and using technology to support that. I'd like to finish by just a couple of remarks and to say that all of these plans at the end is about human. It's about people like you and me who when you have the drive, it will happen. So Smart Africa, we are really privileged to be able to be part of this transformation. It's already happening. It's not just a plan. There is smart transportation in Kigali. Today we have over 100 services that can be applied online. You no longer need to go and face officials to get a service. You can just do it at the comfort of your home or comfort of your room. Today, there is more transparency in governance because everything is out and data, as I mentioned, is everything. So we'll be happy to share more with you the experience of Kigali. I'm honored to be here with the Director General of Smart Africa, who is with us in this room. And I'm sure in a few minutes we cannot share the whole story, but we'll be happy to spend a little bit more time to discuss about the journey that we're experiencing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear. Thank you also for this inspiring presentation. And now we would move to Turkey, to our colleague from Istanbul.
Thank you.
And you are going there? Okay. Mr. Temihan?
Yes.
Have the floor.
Hello. Welcome, everybody. It's nice to be here, really. I mean, in such a city. Barcelona is a wonderful city. But our city, Istanbul, is also, in our opinion, is also a very wonderful city. Our city, as you may know, it was the capital of, before that, yes. It was the capital of the three empires. It's a city of spans two different continents, and a city that houses more than 16 million people. And as we know that the world is on a transformation of an epic scale, that means there are a lot of questions to be answered, many problems to be solved, and Istanbul is no exception to that. But also, we need to keep in mind, or please bear in mind, that Istanbul is bigger than in the world, more than 177 cities. So, let's ask a significant question. How can we manage such a city where 16 million people live? Every year, there are more than 13 million tourists visiting us, and 4 million vehicles are constantly on move, and also, especially for last 20 years, we are also a constant earthquake threat. So, I think the answer is not so easy. What we do in order to live in such a city, we believe that we have the mind that smart city approach and related solutions are in our core business. We are also passionate, and we have the necessary courage in order to solve the problems that our city face. And I would like to explain a little bit about our journey through the smart city. It was begun almost 3 years ago. We realized a deep analysis of the current outlook. And we started the literature reviewing featuring the assessment of the cities that are similar with the Istanbul in terms of demographics and issues to be followed by the comparative smart by indexing, insight gathering, and stakeholder analysis, and vision, strategy, and architecture. So after this work, we came to the point with the help of in our ecosystem, let's say it's a very collaborative ecosystem. As you see, there are many local companies, there are many universities, there are our municipalities, departments, and also the other local municipalities around us. So, after all, after 30 years experience as our company, we came to a point that we can structure our strategy for the next 10 years. That means for the year 2029, we should reach our goals, that these goals could be achieved with our stakeholders and citizens, and by using technology in innovative ways and by focusing on efficiency. Yes, and after that, we identified 24 strategic goals, and we created 50 initiatives, and we chose 101 projects for this roadmap. Let's have a look, the first beginning. As you may know that Turkey has elections in this year. All city mayors were chosen end of the March this year, but our mayor was chosen not once, twice, because of the elections. Maybe you heard that in Istanbul. It was repeated, and our mayor, Mr. İmamoğlu, was chosen again a second time also on the 23rd of June this year. And as you saw on the picture, it is decided that city should be decided by the people, by the citizens of that living in Istanbul. And it was announced as Istanbul is yours. And nowadays, our strategic plan for coming next year, for coming 5 years, is already being prepared, and next month it will be publicly announced. And the analysis has taken many steps, and the people were asked many questions, and the outcome will be announced next month. But we have some info about this outcome. And in the meantime, we try to also manage some kind of places that we can encourage the startups and smart city projects with patience. Therefore, we established in the meantime also transport management center in Istanbul, that a city that lives 20 hours every day, and so the transport management is one of the keys in our city, because of the, as we consider the density of the city is really so high. Yes, in last 3 years, we also achieved to organize these meetings, World Cities congresses. And most probably next year we can also arrange this meeting. So another question that what are the most valuable assets and tools of a city with 16 million population and on its journey to become the most successful smart city? It's not so easy to answer also to this question. But as ISPAC, I mean, one of the affiliated companies of the Metropolitan Municipality of Istanbul, we work with the awareness and responsibility. So we collect all the info. I mean, we know our most valuable tools is artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and advanced data analytics. And as I told, I mean, that city lives 20 hours in a day. And we are realizing as ISPAC, parking and cycling management, transportation command and control center, real-time traffic optimization system, smart traffic signaling, traffic enforcement system, surveillance, and mobility management. So we control, as ISPAC, we measure, we plan, and we manage all those things. So we establish our smart city architectural design framework, as you see on slide. So our goals for the future is to use new technologies like 5G, increasing our renewable energy resources, increase our economy per circulation, and to realize smart urban transformation. And we think that city management that is agile for us, I mean, for all of us, for every citizen of the Istanbul, and not only in Istanbul, but all metropolitan cities, we believe that if we achieve an agile way of management, our innovation can go beyond borders and reach the lives of millions of people. So thank you for your attention. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Temihan, for this presentation. Now we'll move to a mayor. We are listening national governments, big organizations, and we have among us Mr. Eugene Grant, which is the mayor of St. Pleasant, United States. So what are your views on this question?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, very good, very good. Thank you all so very much, and let me thank the conference organizers for the opportunity to present to you this afternoon. I'm just excited to be here in Barcelona and to be here with this distinguished panel of experts. Please give them another round of applause for their presentations. Now, you've heard of Argentina, you've heard of Rwanda, you've heard of Turkey, but I guarantee you have not heard of St. Pleasant. And so today I'm going to give you an introduction of St. Pleasant, Maryland. St. Pleasant, Maryland is a small municipality. Unlike these great cities that you have represented, our city is great too. We just don't have as many people. We are a bedroom community. Washington, D.C. is a suburb of our city. And they take a lot from us, from the greatness of our community, and we're just excited about the wonderful people that live in our city, St. Pleasant, the world's first authentic small smart city, with a population of less than about 5,000 wonderful residents who give me no problems whatsoever. We're located close to 3 airports in our area. We are a transportation hub. for individuals to live in our area, and it's much more affordable to live in Seat Pleasant than it does in Washington, D.C. And so, how do we define an authentic smart city is one of the key objectives that we're going to start off with first and foremost. When you think of a small city becoming smart, it is difficult for people to fathom because of the cost associated with a digital transformation. Yet, we believe that being small is an advantage for us because we're agile, we're nimble, we're flexible. We can do things that the large cities cannot do. When you're dealing with the larger cities, there's a lot of bureaucracy that you have to go through. There are various levels of permissions that you have to get in order to infuse new innovations into that community. I submit to you that there's only one individual at this point in time in a small city that you have to impress, and I would be that one in Seat Pleasant, Maryland. So when we think of a smart city that is authentic, there are three words that I want you to remember. The first word is connectivity. Please repeat after me, connectivity.
Connectivity.
All right, this is participatory, so connectivity is the first word. What is it?
Connectivity.
After connectivity, the next word is data. Please say data.
Data.
And the third area is shared service hub. Please say shared service hub.
Shared service hub.
And so everything about a smart city is about a city that is connected because it is about creating a citizen-centric government. Everything that you do should be about the citizen first and foremost. And we are connected right now in this room. It is not technology that is connecting us, but being in this room right now causes us to be connected. Now that we're connected, we are sharing data or information with one another. A smart city is about the sharing of data. However, as you collect that data needs to go somewhere, and that data needs to go into a shared service hub. Please say that again, shared service hub.
Shared service hub.
As that data is brought into the shared service hub, everyone in the community has an opportunity to benefit from that data that comes in. Now, why did we need to become, again, I only got a few minutes, so y'all bear with me, because I got to get this information out. Why did we become a smart city? We became a smart city because the expectations of our constituents were rising, and we had to meet the needs of the people whom we work for. Then there's the area of accountability and transparency. People pay their taxes. They want to know what their dollars are being used for. We must be accountable to the people who pay us, the government, to manage your resources. And then because of the resources or financial constraints that exist, we had to find ways in which we could be more efficient and more effective with the delivery of services to the constituents whom we serve. Just a couple of the examples of the things that we're doing. We created ourselves as the test bed of innovation. So if there's any corporations out there that got some new innovations and you need to test it, Seat Pleasant, a smart city of excellence, is the location for you to test your innovation. And because of the work that we are doing, we put together our ICT plan, presented it to the United Nations in April of this year so that we can help other cities around the world. Our Center for Government Synergism is our dashboard that you see up on the screens there, that I am able to run the city of Seat Pleasant anywhere in the world that I might be. And my executives, whether it's the police department, whether it's public works, whether it's public engagement, whatever department, they are able to access that data and that information to drive the decisions to deliver the services to our residents every single day. Our app is a very unique app that most cities have an app, but one of the things that we have incorporated in our app is that as a resident begins to ask for services delivered in an area, whether it be a pothole that needs to be fixed, whether it needs property that needs to be addressed, we are able to then, after we abate the issue, we are able to tell the taxpayer exactly how much that actually costs so that we are showing our accountability to the people who paid the bills. The next is our in-home and health monitoring system. We are getting ready to launch that in the next couple of months, where individuals will be able to monitor the health of their loved ones when they are on extended vacation or they're on business travel. You'll still be able to reach out to your aging population that desires to age in place gracefully, and we will be able to give you that information about the health status of that resident no matter where you are. Our street lighting program with Pepco, Verizon, and AECOM, our smart street system, we have deployed that, and there are various other programs. I'm running out of time, everybody. Then the next thing we're doing is getting ready to deploy. We will be the first in the Washington, D.C. Region to deploy 5G infrastructure so that we will be able to give our residents the opportunity to have access to the internet. We believe that smart cities is the new social justice platform that brings about equity and inclusion for every single member of the society. We believe that as that data is flowing and everyone has access to that, just like they say, a rising tide lifts all boats, rising data and information will allow every single resident the opportunity to live out the full meaning of humanity here on earth. Thank you very much. I'm out of time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. If someone has a doubt that implementing a smart city strategy is a question of leadership, here we have a great example. So now we have some time remaining for questions. So who would like to ask to some of the panelists or to give some contribution? Would you mind to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for your presentation, and special thanks to Eugene for bringing this spirit to this room. The question I have, from your presentation, I learned that everything in your cities is very people-oriented and very smart. And to me, it seemed too perfect. So can you please share some dark sides of building smart cities in your cities? And maybe some things that you struggle with, or maybe some not that good case scenarios that you faced.
Any other question, please? Okay, who would like to share?
Well, there's always a challenge with anything that you're bringing about that is new. And so the residents sometimes become very apprehensive. In the United States, a lot of individuals are apprehensive because they think that if you're using these cameras in your community and it's collecting data, that Big Brother is watching you and is spying on you. And so that becomes one of the challenges that we had to overcome. But it does go to leadership, right? What type of relationship does the leadership have with its constituency to bring about trust? Trust is one of the areas that we have got to begin working on to ensure that we are able to deliver services to our constituency. So number one thing that we found as a challenge at the very beginning is that people felt as though the government was trying to spy on them. Once they begin to realize that that was not the case, that is not what the uses of the data collection or the cameras that exist out there, that your life can be improved as a result of these innovations, then they begin to become more relaxed and understand what the purpose of a smart city journey was all about. That's just one of probably many examples we could all give.
Okay. In regards to Istanbul, our challenge is also when we check the answers that we collected from the citizens of Istanbul, immigration is one of the problems. Yeah, it's a real problem because of Turkey has hosting now, maybe you know that, more than 4 million people coming in last, let's say, 10 years. There's really huge amount, and a city that like Istanbul, having more than 16 million inhabitants, our difficulty is really, getting much worse. Because, Turkey is the only country around, as an candidate, still candidate, European Parliament, We are holding them in our country because European countries, mostly, as you know, do not allow. And therefore, this is one of our challenges. And the other one is climate change. I mean, this is also the difficulty for us. Therefore, nowadays, for example, although it's 20, tomorrow, will be November, but the weather conditions are so warm in Istanbul. It's unusual for the many years. It could be also another challenge for us. Thank you.
In the case of when you are leading a process nationwide, one of the main challenges is how we can escalate and run the right size of a platform for each kind of city. So always there's limited resources, so the way we are facing that challenge is to really make the baseline of what you need as a mayor to manage the day-to-day basis of the different areas in the municipality. And then if you have your own systems department and you have the capabilities to escalate more on this basic solution we are providing the cities. So, and they have the right, because we normally work with open source solutions, they have the possibility to do that. So the ones that are more developed, the ones that are realizing that the softwares we are providing have more and more power that they really started when we implemented together.
So two particular challenges that I think can be worth mentioning. Number one is a city is like a plane that is moving, and you have to make changes as the plane is moving. You'll not say, I land it and then I fix it, because cities are complex. Things happen, priorities, pressure that the mayor, that the leadership are facing is ongoing. Every day there's something new which is coming. So the ability to always not be distracted, because there are so many things from that comes as the implementation is happening that might actually distract you. The second thing is the silos. In some cases, I'll give an example of online services. When the city of Kigali and the country decided to create a single platform where all services will be put, just to simplify life of citizens, so they can only get one portal where they can access all the services. In the beginning, every agency was keeping its own, working on its own. And you have this organization, each one trying to keep its own and keep silos. So breaking silos was a process that took time, so that they understand that it's not about them, it's about the citizen. It's not about your budget, it's about the citizen, making life easy for the citizen. So it took a couple of years when we're building the national online platforms for services, but eventually it started picking, and now they started believing and relinquishing some of their powers so that it really benefits the citizen. And today we have over 100 services, from birth certificate, driving license. Even when you want to pay your fine, you actually can go through the platform. When you want to change ownership from land, or you're buying a new land, you can do it through the same platform. So now it's happening, but it took about 2 years to get the stakeholder to understand that I accept actually to leave a little bit of my territory for the benefit of the citizen.
Okay. Well, thank you. We have no more time, because the chair should make the conclusions. I would like to thank the speakers for respecting the time, for being so interactive. We had this vision of national government from regional organization that I didn't know, and I was impressed on the vision you have. Istanbul, I'm coming from Barcelona, so we should discuss which city is more beautiful than the other. But your population, your smart cities is better. And I would like to end up the session giving 3 ideas. if Mr. Mayor, you allow me to copy you. Connectivity, say with
Connectivity.
data, and shared service hub. Thank you very much, and we leave the floor to Octavi for the final conclusions.
Thank you, Xavi. It's difficult to compete with you now making a speech, so I'm going to try to be fast. Has anyone heard about the new urban agenda? I was sure nobody has heard about it because it's jargon of those who work on international relations. But the new urban agenda, there were discussions with Mr. Clos before, the Habitat Street Conference, it's a conference that takes place every 20 years. The last one was in Quito in 2016, where practitioners, politicians, leadership thinks about what's going to happen with human settlements, what's going to happen with cities in the years to come. And there, in the new urban, they produced what's called the new urban agenda, which sets some recommendations for leadership in cities, for national leaders, to see how we can develop our cities in the future. And I'm quite happy to hear that all the different things that you were commenting about this smart city vision, and as well as the discussion we had in terms of the metropolis around the world and this urban trend that is non-stopping, that you have talked about these ideas of the new urban agenda without knowing about the urban agenda. Because the new urban agenda calls for leadership ambition, shared visions, and you were all talking about the need of leadership for implementing the smart city, the need for a vision. You all were sharing visions about your city. The third thing that the new urban agenda talks about is about listen to citizens, center citizen policies. And with a mention, they say, leaving no one behind. And you all said that as well. I mean, why we're doing all these smart things? It's not innovation for the sake of innovation. It's because we want to improve the quality of life of our citizens, and we want to have all our citizens on board. The fourth thing is about the partnerships. We cannot build the new cities without partnerships. Partnerships with citizens, with private sector, with other levels of governments. And we go to other point of the new urban agenda. It talks about multi-level governance. Again, jargon, boring jargon. Multi-level governance means that all the levels of government, local, regional, national, even with international organizations, we need to work together. We need to work together if we want to have an impact. The issue of breaking silos, you were talking about breaking silos. The new urban agenda talks about that. The new policy making is about integrated policies. I mean, any policy has an impact on other policies, and we can no longer work in silos. The issue of accountability and transparency, I mean, and the smart city strategies can be an opportunity for accountability and also for transparency and for monitoring from citizens. And then there's something that you've called, for all of that, we need data. And we need public administrations and local governments which are prepared to process and use this data for better policy making. So thank you very much, and hope to see you in another session. Thank you.